Beyond Gangster Blackface, a critical analysis of gangster rap. Los Angeles, California, the second largest city in the United States of America, rich with history, culture, and ethnic diversity, it is home to a population of over 4 million people, expansive beaches to the west, mountains to the north and east, and to the south, a 120-mile trek to the city of San Diego. Los Angeles, traversed by a massive freeway system anchored by Interstate 5, crossed by the 10, and backed by the 405. Traffic, traffic, and more traffic. Los Angeles, a city of ethnic diversity. Hispanics or Latinos make up about 50% of the population, whites about 30%, Asians about 11%, and African Americans about 10%. Los Angeles, a major hub for actors, filmmakers, visual artists, dancers, and musicians, spawning music groups such as the Eagles, The Doors, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Motley Crue, The Bangles, The Black Eyed Peas, and Rage Against the Machine. In the late 1980s, the Compton-based rap group NWA brought forth what has been dubbed as gangster rap, their lyrics shining light on the ills facing many African Americans who lived in the impoverished communities of South Central Los Angeles.
For me, as an adolescent, NWA represented that rebelliousness that we all had as young boys growing up in the hood. We're all rebellious about our situation.
NWA, Niggas with Attitudes, released their first album in 1987 and went on to release 3 more albums of music. 25 years after NWA's first album was released, the group was reintroduced to the world stage through their film biopic Straight Outta Compton. The film premiered in Los Angeles on August 14, 2015, and was a box office success.
Straight Outta Compton, I love that movie, because that movie makes folks want to talk to Alonzo, okay? From a cinematic entertainment standpoint, I haven't seen a better movie in God knows how long. But because I lived that, on a scale of 1 to 10, I got to give it like a 3 for accuracy.
The film biopic Straight Outta Compton promoted NWA as a socially conscious rap group whose lyrics spoke out against police brutality. But was social activism the primary theme in NWA's lyrics? In this documentary, we will take a critical look at NWA's lyrics. We will ask critical questions about the influence that their lyrics have had on society in general and on the African American community in particular. This documentary is also a personal journey through the lives of 12 interview guests.
I'm Nubia of the Blackberry Beauty Holistic Academy, Ancient African Healing for the Modern Sister.
Gaknew Roxwel, I'm a MC, producer, visual artist.
My name is Ayida. I am a mother, an entrepreneur, and an author.
My name is Salahdeen Asad, and I'm a director, writer, and producer of creative sound and visual.
My name is Luke Ellington, and I'm a producer, rapper, writer.
My name is Sonia Barrett. I am an author. I am a lecturer. I am a filmmaker, a publisher, and I also provide PR services.
My name is Alonzo Williams, AKA Lonzo, the World Class Grandmaster. I'm the founder of the World Class Wrecking Crew and the owner of Crew Cut Records.
My name is Akanundrum, and I am the creator of Melanin Minds Meet.
I am Sadiki Bakari. I am an empowerment specialist, a master trainer, and also an author.
My name is Mecca Islam. I am a mother. I work full-time. I am a community builder.
My name is Wolfgang Amadeuz. I'm a hip-hop historian, music producer, music engineer, and I'm part of Compton's Historical Society.
My name is Keidi, Awadu, lifelong career musician. These days I am an author, a researcher, a broadcast journalist, as well as a living food chef.
I asked the interview guests what types of music did your parents listen to?
Now, the music in my household, man, was very unique because my dad was from Mississippi. He loved Ray Charles, he loved country and western. And my older sister, she was a James Brown R&B fan.
I grew up in the first part of my life in the church because my parents were Christians. So it was a lot of church music.
My mother listened to reggae music. She also listened to Nina Simone.
Bobby Blue Bland to Al Green to Marvin Gaye, all the way to the Temptations, Michael Jackson.
My father listened to mainly jazz, just all jazz, Miles Davis, Coltrane, Billie Holiday. He just loved jazz.
Barbara Mason, the Shy Lights, the Commodores.
Bobby Blue Bland, ZZ Hill, all the way up, Marvin Gaye to Al Green. I heard a lot of rhythm and blues.
Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, Gil Scott-Heron.
Mahalia Jackson's voice coming into the household. Of course, groups such as Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers brought music into our household. But on the other side, we had Nat King Cole, we had Cannonball Adderley. One of the first albums that really stuck with me in my life was Ahmad Jamal's Poinciana.
I asked the interview guests, what types of music did you enjoy listening to when you were a child?
The very first tape that I bought was Anita Baker.
As a child, I listened to R&B, I listened to jazz. Of course, I listened to hip hop as well. I listened to gospel.
So I listened to a whole lot of dancehall, which some of it now in retrospect probably wasn't healthy to listen to, but that's the kind of music that people my age were listening to in Jamaica.
I grew up in the MTV generation. So, we were watching Pat Benatar and Rod Stewart and the Rolling Stones.
My choice of music was hip hop. I loved Run DMC and, Slick Rick.
West Coast hip hop, like Tidy T and King T, Mixmaster Spade.
Children tend to develop a strong bond with the popular music of their childhood. For many of the interview guests, hip hop was the popular music of their childhood. I asked the interview guests, why is hip hop important to you?
Hip hop is important to me because it gave me a voice. As a kid growing up, there was not many resources for us. We played ball in the middle of the street. We all, did the Michael Jackson Thriller dance. And when rap became big, we all thought we were rappers. We were just trying to emulate and imitate it.
Hip hop was basically the guide to me getting knowledge of self and changing my life.
When we deal with hip hop, we're dealing with four main elements. The four main elements that we're dealing with the MC. We're also dealing with the B-boy and the B-girl. We're also dealing with the DJ. And we're also dealing with the aerosol artist, or also known as the graffiti artist or tagging. And of course, there's a fifth element that's very important too, depending on your school of thought. That fifth element is either beatboxing or knowledge.
Most hip-hop scholars agree that hip-hop started around 1973, originating in and around New York City's South Bronx.
I was there when rap started, and they used to have these things called jams. You call it a jam where you took the DJ equipment and you put it outside. We lived in the project at that time. And they would do it. You see them getting them cords and plugging it into the downstairs in the basement of the projects. And it was Houdini. I don't know if people are familiar with Houdini, but the brother with the hat, his name was John Fletcher. And he had a brother, John and Joe Fletcher. We lived on the 6th floor. In the Wyckoff Project, they lived on the 17th floor.
First East Coast rap group I heard probably was the Sugar Hill Gang.
Curtis Blow. He had If I Ruled the World, man, that was my song, man.
Run DMC.
Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew came out in 1985 with The Show and the B-side Lottie Dottie.
Roxanne Shante, the first time I heard Roxanne, it was like life-changing. Like, what is this?
It wasn't until I moved to California in 1991, and I was hanging out with white boys, some white folks, and they was listening to NWA.
In this documentary, we will be analyzing the lyrics of the rap group NWA, Niggas with Attitudes. The group's founding members included Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and Arabian Prince. Additional members included Ice Cube, MC Ren, and DJ Yellow. NWA was signed to Eazy-E's record label, Ruthless Records. I asked the interview guests, what they thought about the name Niggas with Attitudes.
I never thought about the name too much. I heard nigga all the time growing up in my house, at school, everywhere. So to me, it didn't really mean that much.
It wasn't a shock like, oh, he said the N-word. It was just like, they're gonna name themselves that.
The nigga word, I'm sorry, where I came from or where in the East Coast, I don't remember that nigga word being thrown around so easily, and it definitely wasn't allowed in my home.
Despite NWA's name and their provocative lyrics, the group found high levels of fame and financial success. I asked the interview guests, what did NWA mean to young males growing up in Compton, California?
We looked at them as kind of like heroes in a way.
NWA meant a lot to young African-American males just growing up in South Central Los Angeles and Southern California.
I don't even know if people really knew what LA was like. I don't think the mainstream society knew what Compton was like before NWA. They thought it was all palm trees and people surfing. And our existence wasn't like that at all.
I asked Akanundrum, what did NWA mean to young females growing up in Compton, California?
I did not look to them for representation, or I wasn't looking for them to speak directly to me. In fact, it was really like you're listening to the boys' conversation.
One of the critical questions that we should ask is, why did the male interview guests positively identify with NWA when they were young boys, but Akanundrum did not positively identify with NWA when she was a young girl? I will assert that the preeminent perspective present in hip-hop lyrics is that of males who have negative views about women. This assertion can be verified by critically analyzing the lyrics found in most hip-hop songs that specifically speak about women. A critical question that we can ask is, do lyrics have the power to influence people?
Children are listening between the ages of 14 and 16. They are listening to nearly 40 hours of music per week. 40 hours a week, that's an entire work week of music. It's comparative to their time that they're spending in school. And so if you think about that overall, that has to affect you. That's really a conversations that are taking place, dialogue that is taking place, that is becoming a part of your thought processes, how you judge things, how you interact with people, how you communicate.
I asked the interview guests, can lyrics influence a person's mentality?
It can be suggestive, can be very suggestive. So I want to say that it could influence someone in a way that is not going to be necessarily moving them forward.
I mean, something positive like Kendrick Lamar's song, I Love Myself, which is a very positive song, but he could be saying something else, and it could be disempowering or it could be a detriment to the listener.
I was once a young militant with a big old natural in ROTC. I saw the Superfly album poster, and I heard the music. I got my natural fried, turned it into a perm, bought me a maxi coat, and shortly after that, I got me some baking soda, and I started sniffing it because I thought that was a cool thing to do. That was one album, one young man. I'm not telling you something that somebody told me. I'm telling you what happened to me.
Music inserts ideas into our mind, and these ideas are stored, the subconscious. And so we store all of the ideas, every song we've ever encountered. We probably haven't heard that commercial for 10, 20, 30 years or more. But as soon as I start to whistle the melody, the words immediately come back. But these words have more power than we might attribute on the surface. Oh, I'd love to be an Oscar Mayer wiener. No, that is what I would truly love to be. Because if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, then everyone would be in love with me. And in a generation where we've been taught to have such a sense of low self-esteem, music then creeps in and says, I'll fill that void, I'll fill that gap. But too often, it's filled with false ideas.
I asked the interview guests, can lyrics influence a person's language?
Oh yeah. We get all our language from the rap lyrics, for Sheezy, My Neezy, for Show, Audi 5000. I mean, most of the way I knew how to talk came from all the rap songs.
Oh man, I mean, look at the slang. I mean, New York, what's up, guy? What's up, son? Everybody done, for shizzle, my nizzle.
When you hear songs that have literally taken regular little sayings or slogans like bling bling, and it's in a dictionary, or everyone in white America was getting jiggy with it. And, so this is literally transpassing culture, coast, continent, this class.
I asked Salahdeen Asad, can lyrics influence a person's behavior?
I found when I played certain songs, it invoked a certain behavior. So even as a DJ, I had to know to be, depending on the neighborhood that I DJ'd in, to be kind of socially cognizant of the type of music I played, because it either could go from a party where everybody's having a good time, or it can turn into a shootout real quick.
Lyrics can have a positive or a negative effect on a person's mentality, language, behavior, and self-identity. This being the case, we should each ask ourselves, what is the quality of the lyrics that I am listening to? Parents should ask, what is the quality of the lyrics that my children are listening to? These critical questions can be asked about any genre of music and can also be applied to television programming, movies, the internet, and all other forms of global media. We will now focus on the rap group NWA while asking questions about the sociological impact that their lyrics have had on society in general and on the African American community in particular. While researching for this documentary, I conducted a critical analysis of gangster rap with a focus on NWA's lyrics. My critical analysis included both the lyrics that can be heard in the foreground of NWA's music and the subliminal lyrics in conversations that can be heard in the background. The methodology for my critical analysis consisted of the following steps. Step 1, repeatedly listen to NWA's complete discography. Step 2, write down the common words and phrases that are used in NWA's lyrics. Step 3, write down how often each common word or phrase is used. Step 4, identify the major themes present in NWA's lyrics. Step 5, compile a list of common words, phrases, and major themes for each NWA album. Step 6, calculate the per-minute average at which each common word, phrase, or major theme appears in each NWA album. Step 7, compile a list of common words, phrases, and major themes that appear in NWA's complete discography. Step 8, calculate the per-minute average at which each common word, phrase, or major theme appears in NWA's complete discography. As a group, NWA released 4 albums of music, including NWA and the Posse, 1987, Straight Outta Compton, 1988, 100 Miles and Running, 1990, and Niggas for Life, 1991. NWA's first album, NWA and the Posse, 1987, is a compilation album and initially consisted of 11 tracks. The album was re-released in 1988 with a new track added. Combined, the album consisted of 12 tracks with a total runtime of 50 minutes and 9 seconds. There were 13 references to guns, 19 references to cars, 21 references to money, 34 references to drugs, 59 references to alcohol, and 66 negative references to the female body, including calling women fat, ugly, stinky, nappy-headed, etc. The behavior of disrespecting others by demeaning their physical features is quite common in the African American community. Historically speaking, this behavior is known as playing the dozens, but is also referred to as snapping, capping, basing, bagging, etc. In essence, playing the dozens is an extreme form of teasing wherein participants verbally insult each other. The insults are primarily centered on physical features, as in your hair is so nappy, your skin is so black, your lips are so big, etc. There is also a secondary focus on participants' family members, as in your mama's so fat, your sister's so dumb, your daddy's so poor, etc. The person who is able to maintain their composure while being insulted is considered to be the winner. The person who reacts emotionally or with physical violence is considered to be the loser. There are some who consider playing the dozens to be nothing more than a harmless game, but the fact remains that playing the dozens is rooted in verbal abuse, antagonism, and extreme disrespect. On NWA's first album, there were 14 instances of disrespect towards other rappers, 16 instances of NWA members committing violence against African American men, 61 instances of disrespect towards men, 87 instances of self-aggrandizement. Self-aggrandizement is the verbal act of promoting oneself as being more popular, more powerful, or more important than others. This is a common theme in hip-hop lyrics and is often achieved by bragging about oneself while disrespecting others. There were also 177 instances of disrespect towards women, including calling women derogatory names, physical violence against women, sexual abuse of women, sexism against women, etc. To put these statistics into perspective, if you listen to NWA's first album, you would hear the endorsement of alcohol once every 51 seconds. You would hear disrespect of men once every 49 seconds. The word bitch once every 46 seconds. Self-aggrandizement once every 34 seconds. Disrespect towards women, once every 17 seconds. I asked the female interview guests to share their thoughts about NWA's song, A Bitch is a Bitch. In the song, Ice Cube states, "Now the title bitch don't apply to all women, but all women have a little bitch in them. It's like a disease that plagues their character, taking the women of America. Are you the kind that thinks you're too damn fly? Bitch, eat shit and die." Ice Cube coming at you at a crazy pitch. Why? I think a bitch is a bitch.
You know, it's interesting because one part he said, not every woman, huh? See, I never heard that till you said that right now. I did not hear that he said not all women. So isn't that interesting how men got categories? So that's a bitch, but that's not a bitch.
You'll hear a lyric and he's like, oh, these bitches ain't this bitch ain't that, this hoe. And the girls are singing along because in their minds, he's talking about those bitches and those whores. He's not this is not you. So you can separate yourself out and you're like, yeah, and she is a hoe anyway. You know, you don't like her. And so it's easy. It helps you to participate. When you actually have to accept the fact that he never said in that song, except you singing along, never once did he say that, then you have to say, wait, is he talking to me? And when you take it in from that perspective, it has a whole very different connotation to it.
It's not cool. I don't want to be called a bitch. I wouldn't call somebody else a bitch. I don't think it makes women feel good. I don't think it's empowering. I think it hurts us.
I asked the male interview guests, have you ever called a woman a bitch?
Oh, absolutely.
In my mind, I definitely have.
Not to her face. I don't want to get beat up by no girl. That's worse. It's worse. It's real bad for your reputation if you get beat up by a girl. And there was some rough girls in my neighborhood, bruh. You don't want to call none of them no bitches.
Very proud to say that at age 60 years young, I have never called a woman a bitch.
I have in my past, absolutely. And we go through a growth process. Becoming a man, I've understood that we should never refer to women as bitches. So I'm just proud that I was able to come into the consciousness to learn from those mistakes.
I asked Salahdeen Asad to share his thoughts about the following lyrics to the song, A Bitch is a Bitch. In the song, Ice Cube states, "Here, test the girl that's kinda snobby, and I bet you dissing niggas is a hobby. And after she finished the test, grade today of B-I-T-C-H. And watch her get mad cause she know it's true. But a nigga like me'll say, fuck you. Do like Ice Cube, slam her ass in a ditch, cause a bitch is a bitch."
In my opinion, when I first heard it, going back to my mind state then, even then, I took this as probably a not so tactful attempt to give young guys advice on how to deal with rejection. You know, instead of kind of learning to talk to women or step your mouthpiece up or get some game or learn some psychology, just dismiss her. She's a bitch.
You get desensitized. And then you hear it in music. And then your friend's like, oh, bitch, no, you didn't. Get desensitized. And then you hear it in music. Oh, you a bad bitch. So now, I mean, you up the ante on it. And then it will never, ever be the same as you black bitch coming from a white man. So you can literally be raised hearing this word. You can participate in it. You can be the baddest bitch. You can be all this. It will still never take away the sting of it coming from someone. And I think that we have tried to convince ourselves that we could. That if you frequently use it and you take it and you adopt it, you can take away the sting, just like nigga, right? So nigga, niggas with attitude, nigga. It will still never, ever take away the sting of it being used in the context that it was originally supposed to be used in.
One thing interesting, when this group NWA went out on the road and they first started talking about bitches and hoes from the stage, the audiences booed them off the stage for a while. Years later, through a whole series of different impacts and machinations, it is almost expected that you can't go on the stage and talk about black youth urban experience without degrading your own people.
NWA's second album, Straight Outta Compton, 1988, is considered to be NWA's most popular album. The album consists of 13 tracks with a total runtime of 1 hour and 21 seconds. There were 13 references to shootings, 15 references to robberies, 16 references to sex, 17 references to alcohol, 31 references to money, 31 references to gangs, 32 references to guns, and 33 references to drugs. There were 11 instances of violence against the police, 14 instances of NWA members committing violence against African American females, 24 instances of disrespect towards other rappers, 32 instances of NWA members committing violence against African American males, 62 instances of disrespect towards men, 84 instances of disrespect towards women, and 146 instances of self-aggrandizement. It must be noted that NWA's second album featured the song Fuck the Police. The song was considered to be an incendiary critique of abusive law enforcement officers. The song was also considered to be highly controversial and received a wide range of criticism by police agencies, politicians, and the FBI. Here are some lyrics from NWA's song, Fuck the Police. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad 'cause I'm brown and not the other color, so police think they have the authority to kill a minority. I asked the interview guests what they thought when they first heard the song, Fuck the Police.
When I first heard Fuck the Police, I was excited. I had issues dealing with the police in high school.
I was like, wow, it was empowering.
I felt like it was raw, honest emotion.
It really gave relevancy to the complaints and the ills of the inner city youth, and also just black males in general, as well as females that were having their run-ins with law enforcement and being done unjustly.
It was a wake-up call to America to say, hey, look, police are not treating everyone the same. Police are not protecting and serving everyone.
While the song Fuck the Police can be considered to be a courageous attempt by NWA to protest against police brutality, it may very well be that the manner in which police brutality was addressed in the song was not in the best interests of African Americans. Ice Cube will swarm on any motherfucker in a blue uniform. Just 'cause I'm from the CPT, punk police are afraid of me. A young nigga on a warpath, and when I'm finished, it's gonna be a bloodbath of cops dying in LA. Yo, Dre, I got something to say. Fuck the police. The irony is that while NWA criticized police for abusing African Americans, NWA was also the main perpetrators of abuse against African Americans in their lyrics. On their second album, the ratio of NWA abuse of African Americans to police abuse of African Americans is 46-1. I asked Alonzo Williams about the story behind the song Fuck the Police.
We used to all go paintballing, okay? Me, Russ Parr, Bobby Jimmy and the Critics, Arabian Prince, and Dre. And Yella. We'd all go paintballing when we went on tour out in Malibu, shooting at these white boys with paint guns. And Easy saw us having so much fun, he went and bought a shotgun paint gun with the intentions of going out there with us. Well, where my house is and Audio Achievement Studio is straight down the 110 freeway, get off on Torrance. Well, they decided it was a good idea and it might be funny to shoot at cars with a paintball gun on the Harbor Freeway. While doing this, police got wind of this shit and they almost killed their asses. They came back to my house shaking and crying and, man, the police almost killed us. For what? Oh man, all we did was shot at the people with the paintball gun. You did what? Man, fuck the police. Motherfuckers ain't shit. This is one of them stories that you'll never hear about from nobody but me.
NWA's album Straight Outta Compton was the last NWA album that Ice Cube appeared on. Up until that point, Ice Cube had not been properly compensated for his contributions as the main writer for the group. In December of 1989, Ice Cube left NWA to pursue a solo career. NWA's third album, 100 Miles and Run in 1990, is in actuality an EP, extended play recording. The EP consists of 5 tracks with a total runtime of 23 minutes and 25 seconds. What is remarkable about the EP is that it functions as a platform for NWA to verbally disrespect Ice Cube. On the album's first track, Dr. Dre states, started with 5 and yo, one couldn't take it. So now there's 4 because the 5th couldn't make it. On the album's fourth track, Dr. Dre states, we started out with too much cargo, so I'm glad we got rid of Benedict Arnold. Ice Cube responded with his song, Jackin' for Beats, and later with his song, No Vaseline. NWA's fourth and final album, Niggas for Life, 1991, consisted of 18 tracks with a total runtime of 55 minutes and 49 seconds. There were 5 instances of NWA members murdering African American females, 10 instances of NWA members murdering African American males, 11 instances of NWA members committing violence against African American females, 33 instances of NWA members committing violence against African American males, 51 instances of disrespect towards men, 82 instances of self-aggrandizement, 219 instances of disrespect towards women. So in my critical analysis for this one album, I found that NWA disrespected women 219 times. And the question is, why would anyone want to listen to an album of music that disrespects women 219 times? And one of the main reasons, and this is something that we tend not to talk about, but it is a truth, we live in a global sexist culture that's rooted in misogyny. But I want to take this a step further when we talk about critical analysis. I have my calculator here. And let's say that the person listened to NWA, that album, let's say 5 times. If they listened to the album 5 times, so we would multiply 219 instances of disrespect of women, we're going to multiply that by 5. We would come to 1,095 instances of disrespect towards women. Think about that, okay? What if the person listened to the album, let's say 20 times? We're going to take 219, we're going to multiply that by 20. We have 4,380 instances of disrespect of women just on one album. The repetition is key. See, and most people, they don't listen to one song or one album just once. They'll listen over and over and over again. The more that they listen to that album and those lyrics, the more of an impact that those lyrics have on them. So just imagine if you have an album of music that you listen to over and over and over again that consistently disrespects women, how does that impact you as a man? How does that impact you as a woman? One of the patterns that emerged out of this critical analysis was the uptrend of lyrics that were disrespectful towards women, sexually explicit, and or physically violent towards African Americans. On NWA's first album, there were 26 instances of violence by NWA members against African Americans. On NWA's fourth album, there were 38 instances of violence by NWA members against African Americans. Not only was there an increase in violence against African Americans by NWA members, there was also an increase in murders of African Americans by NWA members. There was 1 murder of an African American by NWA on their first album. NWA committed 6 murders of African Americans on their second album. NWA committed 3 murders of African Americans on their EP. NWA committed 21 murders of African Americans on their fourth album. When we calculate the per-minute average for murder of African Americans by NWA members, we find the following. Album 1, murder about once every 50 minutes. Album 2, murder about once every 10 minutes. Album 3, murder about once every 8 minutes. Album 4, murder about once every 2.5 minutes. These statistics clearly show that NWA's body of work increasingly promoted the murder of African American males and females. The critical question that we should ask is, did NWA actually promote murder of African American males and females? Or was NWA merely reporting on what they saw in their environment?
And this group that emerges from this organic sense of community in Southern California, which was Watts, which was South Central, which was Compton. This was a long, long legacy, but unfortunately it is at a stage where now we're starting to witness the slow burning degeneration of community.
Compton went through a big change, I feel like, in the 80s. The early 80s, it was great. We was all little kids playing on the block, playing baseball, football on the block. By the mid-'80s, I feel like crack was like an explosion, and gangbanging ended up blowing up, and by the end of the 80s, you don't see nobody on the block.
You're trying to balance every day. So you're trying to stay out of the way of the violence and other things that were going on, but you still wanted to have fun. And when I look back, I remember the fun times, but I do remember the negative times too.
We were living on Hoover and Colden, and I was home alone most times because my mom worked multiple jobs. It was like 7 or 8, and where we lived, the whole block is just apartment buildings, and then there's a fence behind it down the whole block, and on the other side is all apartment buildings. And it was gang infested, drug dealers. One evening, the SWAT team came like hitting the back fence or whatever. And I was just in the house, I heard all this commotion outside or whatever. So I looked out the window and I see the SWAT team like climbing over the fence, you know what I mean? And like gangbangers was like running, you know, trying to get away. And then I heard shooting. And then when I heard the shooting, I got down on the floor, I, like covered my head, was just laying there, and the dude was banging on the door, let me in, trying to get away from the police. And it was crazy.
Me and Gaknew, we grew up about 2 houses down from each other, and I know his old family. And basically, the first time I had actually witnessed someone being murdered was his older cousin.
He was in his late teens around that time.
I just remember the night I heard the shots. I was in the bed, and I didn't think nothing of it because we heard shots all the time. Then you start hearing a little rumbling, people talking. I'm like, it's about maybe 12, 1 o'clock at night. Looked out my window, and I see a body laid out in front of my house.
I knew that he was in, you know, gangs and dope dealing, whatever, and basically the life caught up with him.
I never seen in real life someone dead, you know, in front of my house. So it was a real surreal moment for me. I didn't really know how to feel about it at the time.
Well, like I was saying before, you know, like I feel like Compton changed a lot once the crack game started going, you know? So, yeah.
We must understand that NWA members grew up during a time period when drugs, gangs, and murder began to escalate to unprecedented levels in Los Angeles. It should be expected that NWA members would rap about and report on what they saw in their environment. However, I would ask the critical question, is reporting on murder that is taking place in your environment the same as portraying yourself as the murderer in your environment? Another way of looking at this is to consider mass media news reporting. When a reporter reports on an incident of domestic violence, does the reporter say, "An incident of domestic violence took place today between an African-American man and woman. Prior to the incident, the man is said to have been drinking Bakari rum. The argument between the man and woman quickly escalated into physical violence as the man grabbed the woman by her hair and slapped her across the face." Or does the reporter say, "Left to get my girl to rock that body. Before I left, I hit the Bacardi. Went to her house to get her out of the pad. Dumb hoe said something that made me mad. She said something that I couldn't believe, so I grabbed the stupid bitch by her nappy ass weave. She started talking shit. Wouldn't you know, reached back like a pimp, slapped the hoe." The point is this. NWA did not simply report on the negativity that they saw in their environment. They actually exploited the negativity that they saw in their environment by assuming the identity of the perpetrators of that negativity. They did not simply report on the abuse of women, they became the abusers of women. They did not simply report on the rape of women, they became the rapers of women. They did not simply report on the murder of African Americans, they became the murderers of African Americans. Anytime that the 9 want to leave, I got a 38 hitting up the sleeve, and it's ready to go to war because that's what it's here for. I shoot down 1 million niggas and shoot one more. NWA's lyrics promoted what I call premature black boy death, wherein African American males are murdered at an early age by other African American males. He took a swing for my head, thought I was faded, start running for the door, but the fucker never made it. The sound of the 9 went bang, and all over the wall was his motherfucking brain. Most of us know of someone who died because of gun violence or because of gang violence at a very early age. The critical question that I'd like to raise here is, why is it that it's okay for us to turn premature black boy death into a form of entertainment? The top 10 major themes present within NWA's complete discography include the promotion of sexual promiscuity, 86 times, the endorsement of alcohol consumption, 86 times, references to drugs, 87 times, NWA members committing violence against African American men, 88 times, disrespect of other rappers, 91 times, references to guns, 93 times, the disrespect of men, 193 times, self-aggrandizement, 345 times, and the disrespect of women, 553 times. All right, I have my calculator here, and I just want to crunch some numbers here again for everyone. Okay, here we go. All right, so I found in my critical analysis that in NWA's 4 albums, they disrespected women 553 times. That's significant, 553 times. Now, there are some people who would say that's not a lot. Okay, that's not a lot. Okay, but keep in mind, it's about repetition. Let's say someone listened to all 4 NWA albums, let's say 5 times. That number of 553 instances of disrespect of women will now go to 2,765 times. See, most people don't listen to an album once. They'll listen to it over and over again. What if they listen to the NWA's full discography, all 4 albums, 20 times? Okay, we're going to take 553 instances of disrespect of women. We're going to multiply that by 20. Now we're at 11,060 instances of disrespect towards women. If you listen to NWA's complete discography, you would hear the promotion of sexual promiscuity about once every 2 minutes, the endorsement of alcohol consumption about once every 2 minutes, NWA members committing violence against African American men about once every 2 minutes, references to guns about once every 2 minutes, disrespect of men once every 58 seconds, the word bitch once every 54 seconds, self-aggrandizement once every 32 seconds, you would hear the word nigga once every 29 seconds, and you would hear the disrespect of women once every 20 seconds. We have already established that lyrics can have various degrees of influence on a person's thoughts, words, and actions. Negative lyrics that promote the disrespect of women would obviously have a negative influence on the minds of young, impressionable boys and girls. Such lyrics would also have an adverse effect on male-female relationships. It is entirely possible that the heightened occurrence of negative male-female relationships within the African American community is in part the result of repeated exposure to a genre of music that commonly disrespects women, promotes sexual promiscuity, and to a significant extent embraces African American male criminality as a standard for African American male masculinity. Straight out of Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube from the gang called Niggas with Attitudes. When I'm called off, I got a sawed off, squeeze the trigger, and bodies all hauled off. I asked Sadiki Bakari, can lyrics that promote violence and murder have a negative influence on young, impressionable children?
Yes, lyrics like that can have an impression on young children. Most young children don't understand that storytelling. Most of those artists are not living those lives. Most of those artists are not in the gangbang life, so to speak. Most of those artists are not selling drugs. Most of those artists are not involved in crime or anything of that nature. They're simply actors.
While researching for this documentary, I looked into the backgrounds of each NWA member and found that none of them were in a gang while in NWA. In other words, though their lyrics would have you believe that they were gangsters, and though their brand of rap was dubbed as Gangster Rap, NWA members themselves were not gangsters. A critical question that we can ask is, why did NWA promote themselves as gangsters in their lyrics? Here's a little gangster short in size. A t-shirt and Levi's is his only disguise. This is a gang and I'm in it. My man Dre'll fuck you up in a minute. In their lyrics, NWA members portrayed themselves as literal gangsters, while placing themselves as the murderers of 31 African Americans. Did NWA members murder 31 African Americans in reality? Or were they acting out criminalized roles, painting themselves in a sort of gangster blackface? In 1828, comic actor Thomas Dartmouth Rice popularized blackface, wherein white actors painted their faces black and acted out demeaning caricatures of African Americans. These theatrical displays contributed to the establishment of negative racial stereotypes about African Americans, including the notions that African Americans were, by nature, lazy, superstitious, violent, criminal-minded, sexually promiscuous, buffoonish, cowardly, and intellectually inferior to whites. Just as Thomas Dartmouth Rice's popularization of blackface established blackface minstrelsy as the dominant performance tradition in American theater, NWA's popularization of gangster blackface established gangster rap and the notion of black male criminality as a lucrative motif that would be thoroughly exploited by the entertainment industry.
So I think it becomes a problem when younger children actually internalize this as if it's reality, as opposed to the illusion that's being pushed and the entertainment that's being pushed through the music industry.
It is important to note that though the vast majority of NWA's lyrics promoted various degrees of negativity, we must acknowledge the fact that NWA did promote various degrees of positivity in their lyrics. In my critical analysis, I found that there were two songs that had a generally positive message. The first song, Dope Man, discouraged the sale of and the use of drugs within the African American community.
They did shine light on the dope man lifestyle. And the one part of the song where it's like, yo, Mr. Dope Man, you think you're slick. You sold crack to my sister and now she's sick. I mean, that told kids in my age range, hey, you know, this dope dealer lifestyle isn't what it's all cracked up to be.
The second song, Express Yourself, encouraged positive creative expression.
Express yourself, like when Dre said, even when Yella makes it a cappella, I don't stress, I don't smoke weed or cess. Now he's talking about not actually smoking dope. So he's, hey kids, don't smoke this stuff because it's bad for your health, it's bad for your mental.
Through critical analysis, we have been able to determine the truth as to the core quality of NWA's lyrics. They are primarily negative and consistently promote the disrespect of African American men and women, physical violence against African American men and women, disrespect of other rappers, self-aggrandizement, verbal abuse, alcohol consumption, sexual promiscuity, and African American male criminality. Before we begin to close out this documentary, I would like to take a critical look at the lyrics from NWA's song, Boys in the Hood. Went to her house to get her out of the pad. Dumb hoe said something that made me mad. She said something that I couldn't believe, so I grabbed the stupid bitch by her nappy ass weave. She started talking shit, wouldn't you know, reached back like a pimp, slapped the hoe. I asked the interview guest to talk about the issue of physical violence against women and how it is promoted and celebrated in NWA's lyrics.
If you are the victim, I can't imagine what that feels like to hear somebody celebrating, bragging, making light of something that is very serious.
I think it's unfortunate because it promotes violence against women, and it also promotes the disrespect of Black women.
Looking back at it now, naturally, there are some disparaging things being said about women. I know sisters definitely will have an issue with many of those lyrics. I know I do.
I saw domestic violence when I was a kid, you know what I mean? I saw my cousin's boyfriend beating her up. Like, I was woke up in the middle of the night by, like, thuds in the other room. My cousin being slammed into the wall, slammed into the dresser. Like, it's foul.
I asked the female interview guests if they had ever witnessed domestic violence.
I had a friend who was 15 and I was 16, and she was going through a domestic violence relationship.
I saw my mother, deal with domestic violence.
I personally have not experienced domestic violence against myself, but I have seen it during my upbringing. My mother's twin sister, my aunt, when we lived in Central America, we actually had to flee Belize because the father of her child was abusive, and I've witnessed him chasing her down and beating her up and having to call the police and having to deal with that, and getting up early in the morning, getting on a bus, trying to run away, the whole family trying to run away from him. We were fearful of him catching us. And it was just this one he wasn't even a very big, strong, macho man. He was skinny, but he terrorized her. He made us all fearful of him. And so we actually left Belize to escape his abuse. So I saw that, and it had a huge impact on me as a child.
There's a normality that seems to be associated with domestic violence. And The only reason why that's happening is because we have to recognize that both parties are coming to the table damaged. The males in this situation are in a mode of deficiency. They are feeling lack, some sort of emotional deficiency. And because of that, they need to control something outside of them. And the woman, who is physically more vulnerable, allows them to get the power that they feel is missing. And she, because of culture or background or society, is then accepting of that. To a certain degree, she'll say that she's not, but she's still there. And why does she remain there? Out of fear. I experienced some of these things, and one day I ran. One day I took my 2 boys and I ran away. I went to the store and I never came back. I took my kids and ran and slept in my car for a couple of weeks with my sons. It was the happiest moment ever because we never had to be in fear anymore. And there are some women that are afraid of making that leap. There are some men who are going through abuse as well, but it generally seems to be the women. And they're afraid of doing that, or they say it's the money. What am I going to do? Well, what are you going to do if you're not here? You have to look at that. Both parties do have to, on an individual level, come to a truth about themselves as to who they are and why they are imposing this on somebody, or why am I accepting this? And why am I so afraid to leave and have more and be more? But I will say this, it is very possible. And I am here many, many years later, but I took my life in my hand and just took off and said, you know what? My choices are different now. Do I spend my time blaming the other party? No. What you do is you use those experiences as a stepping stone. You look at them as an experience. This is what happened. This is what I went through. Did I gather anything from it? Did I learn from this experience? And you see what you learned, and you get worth for yourself from it. And you release it. You don't carry it and you're, victim. I'm a victim of domestic violence. No, I don't wear that plaque because I'm not. What I had was an experience, a very traumatizing experience, but I rinsed it from my life so that I could move forward. And that's what I would suggest that any individual in that situation do, is decide and move forward, because life can be different.
In my critical analysis, I found that NWA's lyrics consistently glorified physical violence against women. I smack the bitch up and shoot the nigga that's with her, Dr. Dre. Punch the bitch in the eye, MC Ren. So what about the bitch who got shot? Fuck her. You think I give a damn about a bitch? I ain't a sucker. Eazy-E. Slam her ass in a ditch, 'cause a bitch is a bitch. Ice Cube. I asked the interview guests, would you let your children listen to NWA's lyrics?
No.
No.
I don't let my kids listen to hip hop in general.
I don't feel like I need to introduce the negativity to them to analyze them, because they can get that on their own outside. But if she brought it home to me, we are going to talk about it.
We should sit down with our children and go through these lyrics, go through the music, just go through the entire construct so our children can really understand why is this type of music being put out mainstream as opposed to a different type of music that may be more positive. Why should we not speak of our women in such a manner? Why should we not promote gang life, so to speak, and drug dealing and things of that nature? I think it's best if we sit with our children and it comes from us as opposed to them seeking it outside of us and outside of our parameter of culture and high science and spirituality and responsibility. So I think it's up to the parents to really sit down with their children and have those type of discussions and conversations.
I do have to say this. This is something that's, I always was very free with what I listened to with my boys. But when I had daughters, and now that my daughters are older, it hurts. Some of the stuff I hear, I'm like, and I turn it down because now these are young girls growing into their womanhood. And I don't want them to hear that. And my daughter, who's 11, she's like, Mommy, I don't think this is appropriate. And it's not.
The process of critical analysis that we have outlined throughout this documentary can be applied to any hip-hop artist, any genre of music, to any book, magazine, movie, television show, website, etc. In applying this process of critical analysis, you will be able to determine whether or not what you are viewing, reading, and listening to is in your best interest. In the case of music lyrics, you should ask yourself, are the lyrics that I am listening to helping me to live a happy life? Are the lyrics that I am listening to preparing me for a positive relationship? Are the lyrics that I am listening to supporting the positive relationship that I am currently in? Are the lyrics that I'm listening to helping me to become the best woman that I can be? Are the lyrics that I'm listening to helping me to become the best man that I can be? Are the lyrics that I'm listening to helping me to become the best parent that I can be? For you parents, it is vitally important that you are aware of the messaging present in the lyrics that your children are listening to. You must be the first line of defense with respect to your children's mental, emotional, and moral development. I sincerely hope that this documentary has helped you to develop the intellectual tools needed to better protect yourself and your children from negative media programming. My name is Lenon Honor, and I send you lots of love, peace, and positivity.
The advice that I would like to give to the men who see this documentary is to know that you are important, you are valuable, and to know that we need you and we love you.
Gain a knowledge of self. Prepare yourself. Stand up. We're ready. We're waiting for y'all.
The message that I would like to give to the women who see this documentary: forgive us.
Black men today have no feelings, most people would say. We know not the meaning of love, because our hearts are filled with so much anger. Education say our life's beginnings be in slavery. We have no purpose in present day, and our future seems so far